This week in IT, I'm going to show you how to improve your productivity with Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge and how you can find open tabs faster. We're also going to look at all of the latest news, and I'm going to highlight an event on Petri that's happening in the next couple of weeks that you won't want to miss. So when you've got lots of tabs open in Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, you know it can be really difficult to find a tab that you were working on previously. You can see on the screen now that I've got loads of tabs open, but I want to find something that I was working on a while ago, and without literally scrolling through every open tab or hovering over a tab like this to see what the name of the website is and the title of the page, it can take a while for me to find what it is that I'm looking for. There are a couple of different solutions to this, but one that I've been using a lot recently is vertical tabs. And this really helps you to find the open tabs that you're looking for much faster. Now, depending on the browser that you're using, whether it's Chrome or Edge, the setup of this is slightly different. So if you're using Google Chrome, you can add the vertical tabs feature using an extension from the Google Play Store. And there are several different extensions that add the vertical tabs functionality, so you can go over and have a look at that. If you're using Edge, it's much easier. You just come over to the Tab Actions menu in the top left-hand corner, click it and turn on vertical tabs. And you can see all of the tabs are now listed vertically on the left-hand side of the browser. Now you might be thinking, well, how does that change the situation at all? In fact, it's even worse because all I can see now is an icon. Well, if you hover over this section, you can see now that I have all of my tabs listed out and I can see the full name. So I don't have to switch between all the tabs to find what I'm looking for. So I can click around and switch between tabs really quickly like this, and it's all really simple and easy, and I can do it all just with looking without having to actually do anything with my keyboard or mouse. So it really helps improve productivity for people who have lots and lots of tabs open at the same time. Now, there are a couple of different ways I can work with the vertical tabs bar here. I can pin it open. So, if I want to have them open all of the time, which is how I work with it mostly, because I have, a relatively large screen here, you can do that. Or you can collapse it, and then of course you just hover over and it will stay expanded until you click away from it. So that's a good way to get some of your screen real estate back if you've got a slightly smaller monitor maybe. So one of the things that was a little bit awkward when I first started working with vertical tabs is every time I wanted to close a tab, I found myself moving the mouse to the top of the screen because, that's where I always went to click the, little cross to close a tab. But of course, it's not there now. They're all on the left-hand side. So because that muscle memory of closing a tab seemed to be so ingrained, I found a workaround, and probably something, that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So instead of using the mouse to close a tab, now I always use the keyboard shortcut, which is the Control key and W. So I don't even have to touch the mouse. So that's another benefit really for me, at least, of using vertical tabs. It forced me to actually use that keyboard shortcut. So let me know in the comments below if you like this feature and if it improves your productivity. This week, Microsoft announced the availability of Microsoft Defender for Business as a standalone product. Now, this has been available in the last few months as part of various different Microsoft 365 Enterprise subscriptions. But now, if you don't want to subscribe to, one of those enterprise plans that's usually going to cost you about $22, you can buy this as an extra add-on for $3 per user, and it's for businesses with up to 300 users. Now, it might seem that this is just another antivirus solution, but of course it's much more than that. You get all of that really cool stuff, all of the advanced threat protection, all of the integration with the cloud defense mechanisms that you have there built into Microsoft Defender. That's usually only technology that's available to large enterprises. So I think this is a really good value offer from Microsoft compared to some of the other things that it's announced recently, which have been rather overpriced in my opinion. Now, in some interesting news, Microsoft is saying that their update compliance service, this is something that works with Windows Update and Windows Update for Business, will soon require require an Azure AD subscription. Now, this is a service that basically reports on whether your endpoints are compliant with your update policies. So it will go around and record all of the information, and then you can check which devices haven't updated for whatever reason. So if you're currently using Update Compliance, you can carry on with it in its current setup until October the 15th this year, after which point you'll be required to have Azure AD either directly or in a hybrid setup with Windows Server Active Directory to carry on using it. If you're hoping to buy a new PC or notebook anytime soon, then there's maybe a little bit of bad news for you. Intel's CEO has announced that instead of to the end of 2023 we'll be experiencing chip shortages, that's probably going to carry on now throughout 2024. And the reason that he cited for that is a lack of equipment that's used to manufacture the chips themselves. Now, I don't know if you've tried to buy a PC or a notebook in Europe recently. I did in December last year, and it's really hard. There are very few models available. It's very hard to get exactly what you want. So there's a long wait if you want a particular model of PC or a new notebook, for instance. It's really hard. A little bit easier in the States, I think, but this is a real problem for anybody in the market for a new device right now. If you've been watching these podcasts, you'll probably know that I'm a big Microsoft Lists fan, and Microsoft has announced this week that the application is finally available for Android. Now, I'm not quite sure what's taken them so long, because this app has been available for iOS, I think pretty much since the modern SharePoint list experience launched. So you've got this app now available for Android users, and it only supports commercial Office 365 and Microsoft 365 accounts at this stage. So you can't use it if you're using Lists with a personal MSA account, but I'm sure that's something that Microsoft will remedy in the future. And we have two pieces of developer news this week. So the first is that Microsoft is going to require all developers to secure their GitHub repositories with two-factor authentication by the end of 2023. Now, this of course absolutely makes sense, because there are more cyber attacks happening against GitHub and developers in general. With what's happening in the world right now, cybersecurity is becoming more and more of an issue as every day passes. So this makes absolute sense. Of course, it's a little bit of an inconvenience sometimes to have to work with two-factor authentication. But at the moment, if you're not going to go fully passwordless, which is another thing that Microsoft, Apple and Google have announced that they're working on together this week, then really two-factor authentication is the next best option. And in some more developer news, there's been a major update for the PowerShell extension for Visual Studio Code. Now, the main point of this upgrade, as far as I can understand, is really massively improved performance. So they've improved the thread count usage with the integrated PowerShell console that you see at the bottom of Visual Studio Code. So hopefully this update should remove some of that clunkiness and any issues with PowerShell slowing down Visual Studio Code. So if you use either PowerShell or Visual Studio Code, then this is something you should definitely go and grab right now. And this week on Petri, I want to highlight a webinar that we've got coming up with Netwrix in a couple of weeks, May the 18th to be precise, 1:00 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's about how you can migrate native group policy objects to Microsoft Intune, which is Microsoft's mobile device management platform. So I'll be hosting this, and Jeremy Moskowitz, who's a MVP and founder of Policy Pack, which is now owned by Netwrix, will be giving a presentation on how you can migrate your legacy group policy objects. So all those configuration settings that you have defined for your endpoints, how you can easily and quickly migrate those to Microsoft Intune. So Jeremy will also be covering how to enforce access control and data access, how to prevent malware from infecting MDM-controlled computers, and how to manage enterprise application settings without using ADMX templates. So that should be a really good session. I'm going to put the link in the video description below. Please head over and register for that webinar right now so that you don't miss out. If you found the video useful, then please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of these weekly updates, including the hot tip, the Petri Spotlight, and of course all the latest IT news stories. And if you'd like to check out last week's hot tip, how to use the Microsoft Loop paragraph element in Microsoft Teams, then check out the video on the end screen right now.